Hi everybody, this is Claude, aka the Black Negotiator. Super excited to celebrate Kwanzaa with you today. For those who don't know, Kwanzaa was created during the aftermath of the Watts riot in the US. And in tough times, I really loved the idea of elevating the best of people. And we can all agree that 2020 was at best a challenging year for people. So over a period of 7 days, I will interview 7 very special guests, and each interview's theme will be based on one of the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. Super excited to have Linh today, and she's going to talk to us about Umoja, unity, to strive for and to maintain unity in the family, community, nation, and race. Linh, thank you very much for being with us. Super looking forward to this interview. So can you start by telling us who you are, where you're from, what you do?
My name is Linh. I'm 41. I was born and raised in France, which is also your home country. My parents are Vietnamese. They actually moved to France after the Vietnamese War in the 70s. In 2010, I actually started my own hospitality consulting firm, both in Asia and Europe. So I have 2 offices today, one in Ho Chi Minh City and one in Paris. And my job mainly consists in providing advisory services to hotel investors in Asia in their hotel investment projects, ranging from hotel concept to negotiations with operators and third parties, acquisitions, repositioning, and anything related to the hospitality world.
Let's talk about race.
Let's talk about race. That's always a very, I guess, touchy subject. And there are several reasons to that. First of all, I think that growing up, as a child from, parents who were immigrants in France, there's always this kind of struggle because you're always torn between 2 cultures. You are the first generation of kids to be born in a foreign country, which is a country which has different, values, has different culture, has different way of thinking than what your parents were brought into. Yeah. So growing up as let's say, yes, that's that first generation of Vietnamese descendant in France has been quite of a challenge. And slowly, I'm going to move into that definition of unity that you've been asking me. But I think it's important maybe for generations like yours, like mine, or even kids who are now in the 3rd or 4th wave, of descendants of immigrants. Yeah. It's always something that you carry with you, because obviously, when people look at us in the street physically, you can't deny that you are from a different race, if I can say. But I think I'm a little bit uncomfortable with the term, just the word race, and maybe this is because of the French background. I think that in French the word race tends to carry a certain negativity. Yeah. I think in English, in the English world, the word race is much more, let's say, approachable than in French. And so the struggle, I guess, growing up with 2 different cultures. So with the fact that, you live in a house which eats and speaks and lives fully Vietnamese. And as soon as you step out your house, you have to be French in some ways, right? So you have to change your language, even sometimes your body language, not only, your verbal language, adapt to other culture, understand also how the other kids are thinking and how they perceive you. So I think for me, the notion of race and the challenges that go along with that is more at that level, more than racial, I would say, context. Because to me, honestly, the unity comes from the awareness that we are essentially all the same. So to me, the notion of race is more diversity in the expressions of oneself. So basically, if we are aware that we are all coming from the same source, let's say, but then we have different ways of expression, and this is what to me diversity is. it's your own expression, then unity in diversity is actually something that is totally attainable, because we are fundamentally all the same, but we are expressing our own identities, our own diversity. So I'm not sure it was clear.
That's beautiful.
This is how I perceive unity, I guess.
That's really beautiful.
At the age of 41.
It took a long time.
It took a long time and a lot of hours in therapy.
We always underestimate the value of therapy, in my opinion.
Always. So you know, if today we can provide some few shortcuts to one or two people, you know, the job will be done.
That's the intent. So let's dig a little bit on that one, because as you said, in France, there's really this idea of there's one main culture and everybody else needs to integrate. And this is what's going to give unity. I think you articulated super well that we're all the same, but we have different spikes, but we're still all the same. And that's what, you know, bring us actually together. What do you think makes people believe that there's only one option, and it's to adapt, and it's to integrate, and it's to pretend to be all the same, when we know that one is not true, and it's also boring. It's freaking boring.
Yes, it is. No, I fully agree. I think, you know, deciding that there's only one way is actually the result of fear. It's so much easier, and it's so much, you know, secure to say that it's this way to be integrated into, let's say, our family, our community, our country, our world, you name it. I guess it's coming from the fact that people may feel threatened or scared by differences, and they see it as a threat. And if you see it as a threat, I guess you will tend to expect and demand from other peoples to fall into your mold, the one that you've decided, the one that you say it is the right one. And culturally speaking, I think that one of the reasons why I've been working internationally in other countries, other markets, and not necessarily in France, is because I was struggling with that idea that I had to fit, you know, the same box that everyone.
Think about all the therapy, think about all the conversation you had. What kind of advice would you give your younger self, especially around unity?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think what I would love to say to Linh, who was 12 years old, is to actually accept and embrace your diversity. And I think this is something that we don't say enough to kids and young people. Because of course, when you're a teenager, you know, you want to blend in, you want to be integrated, you want to be part of something. And I think most of the times, your biggest fear is to be excluded. And you can see it even more nowadays, amplified on social networks, you know, exclusion or feelings of being isolated is I guess, even more hurtful for kids and teenagers nowadays, because of course, of the power of those social networks who just amplify everything times 10 or times 100. So I guess what I would like to say to myself is, you don't have to look like everyone. Actually, you don't look like everyone. So, so just, you know, as a starting point, just accept it. And once you accept it, I think it's really important to start with your own unity. So we've been talking a lot about, you know, unity, like in general terms, in a very noble sense, I would say, from the beginning. But I think that unity really starts with yourself. The sooner, you know, in life, you manage to feel unified your body, your mind, your breath, you know, what you stand for, basically being aligned with yourself, I think the better for the other forms of unity, because obviously you can't spread unity within your family, within your school, or within your communities, or within your company, or within your business, if yourself you don't feel unified. I mean, of course you can always pretend, you know, it's at some point certain people develop certain skills, but I think that a lot of research on leaderships, you know, uh, that has been carried out for the past years show the importance of authenticity. And authenticity, I think, can only be reached if you're being, of course, honest with yourself, just to start with. I mean, otherwise, of course, you can fake things for years. But at the end of the day, people feel it. People feel it if you know, deep down inside,
And even
you're not that aligned with yourself. Yeah.
and even you feel it. I mean, I think at the
Of
end of the
course,
day, there's also that thing. You feel
of
it, and
course.
you can't really be like your true self. Think about our last two questions. First one, around your negotiation background. And you said, actually, I really wanted to ask you that question because you do a lot of negotiation for your deals. How do you see cultural background impacting negotiations in general? And first question,
Yes.
first yes or
Yes,
no
yes,
question. Do you think
yes,
it impacts the way people negotiate? Yes or no? And then just explain.
yes, it does. Of course, it does. I think in deal makings and negotiations in general, people come with their own backgrounds, right? So it could be your cultural background, your academic background, sometimes also your emotional backgrounds, because you step into a negotiation room, and maybe it was really a bad hair day, right? A really frozen type of hair day. Um, so, so yes, cultural background have an impact, but maybe not in the way that people sometimes expect it. I think you actually cultural background has an impact in people's perceptions. So basically, people walk into a negotiation room with me. They would expect certain things or certain behavior because what they see is a small Vietnamese lady who enters the room. And if sometimes I'm not being mistaken for somebody else and, you know, they just ask me for tea or coffee, sometimes when I have the chance to sit down at the negotiation table and go straight into business, it does have an impact because it tends to frame people in the way they will also react in the negotiation dynamics. So in short, it's really how you can use it. And coming from different cultural backgrounds, like you and I, it actually, I think, to our advantage because we can play different colors, more or less. You know, it's just like playing poker. You have different facets. It means you have different faces. It means you have different tools you can use during your negotiation. So depending on the feedback and the reading you have from the other party, I think your cultural background can actually be your best friend because you can really play with it. You can play with it, and you know sometimes it's kind of fun too to go.
That's
You know,
that's one of the few people saying that, you know, this is when you know you reach the level of mastery. The thing I like to say is in negotiation is really around your tool set and how many tools you have. And I think having a different cultural background or being used to evolve in different cultures just means automatically you have more tools available to
yeah,
yourself, and having more tools helps a lot to be more successful in general in negotiation or in life
absolutely.
or in anything really. For the wrap up, what's the best
Yes.
negotiation advice you ever received?
Now, you know, sometimes I get, you get carried out in the excitement of negotiations. I mean, I don't know for you, but, you know, when you've been sitting in a meeting room like for 2 or 3 days and you have 7, 8 hours of negotiations per day, of course you get carried out. And you want, and especially as a consultant, as a consultant, you always, I guess, obsessed by the idea that you have to protect your clients. And just to conclude, I would actually top up with that idea is that I think I'm even more protective of my clients because they are coming from an emerging market. So, I just feel that sometimes um, the responsibility or the accountability towards them is, it's sometimes a little bit higher, I would say. Because I feel, you know, certain deals start with some imbalance and inequalities. So yes, I guess that day I must have been a little bit too protective.
But I think that's super nice also for the wrap up. I think this is a great example of unity, and working together and going together. And you're making, of course you pay for it, but you're also making your clients like concerns and interests yours, and you're going really hard about them. And I think that's just a tremendous sign. And if we could all do this more often, I think we'll probably end up with a lot of better deals for our community. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely.
Helen, it was an absolute pleasure talking to you. Love the insight, love the free therapy. That's always appreciated. And that wrap up our first episode on
wonderful
Umoja, unity, striving and maintaining unity in the family, community, nation, and race. Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much.
See you soon.
See you soon.